Floridians, how do you feel about the Florida man stereotype? I encounter them fairly often and I find it pretty accurate. It doesn't describe all of us, but there are a non-zero number of them in any public space, so it makes sense that it has caught on. I've never encountered a wild Floridian before, so this is very informative. So I no longer live there but grew up in northern Florida on the Panhandle. Left when I was 19. Looking back, it's funny but good. Living there could be exhausting at times, especially as a gay teenager. So my two stories I like to tell that always get a laugh. 1. My hometown got a Walmart. On its opening day, my high school took a field trip to it. Always joked that the school was saying, "Come look where you'll spend the rest of your life, kids." 2. The only boyfriend I had back then left me for his 42-year-old second cousin. Keep in mind I was 17 and my boyfriend was 18. But oh, it gets better. The 42-year-old had a 20-year-old son. They later on got engaged, and the ex told the son to call him dad now, then tried to talk me into a threesome. Fun times. If you didn't guess it, the relationship didn't last. Don't know what happened, but eventually they got into a fight and broke it off. So yeah, I very rarely visit home. I find it entertaining. Weird crap definitely does happen here. I once went to a party and ended up in the start of a zombie apocalypse because a crazy girl bit me on my arm and wouldn't get off me till her roommate came across the room and kicked her in the face. I only offered my hand to help her off the ground and she bit me, totally unprovoked. I'm sad I don't remember her name or I'd FB message her on our bite-iversary. An Introvert's Guide to Flirting. Part 1. First step. Pretend to need the target's assistance. Second step. Call them a snack. I claim it with pride. Did I ever tell you about the time I fought off a 450-pound bear that wanted my barbecue by stabbing it in the face with a 50-cent steak knife? On my front porch? The details. I'm cooking out on the porch. I hear a noise and look around. A big black bear has been following his nose, sees me between him and his BBQ, made a sort of humph and froze, staring at me. He's about 15 feet away, on the 3 steps up to the porch. I raise my arms to look bigger and yell, "Go away, bear," but he doesn't twitch. I can see the wheels turning in his head through his beady little eyes. He didn't expect me, but is now considering whether to eat me or just teach me a lesson about getting between him and his food. The door is about 10 feet away, but that's directly towards the bear, not a good direction. No other retreat is open to me, being on the porch with the grill. Maybe if I throw something at him he will get momentarily distracted or intimidated enough for me to make it to the door. My options are a 99-cent Dollar General spatula, which does not recommend itself as a weapon, or a flimsy plastic-handled 4 for $2 steak knife, which at least has a sharp-ish point. I take the steak knife by the tip and threw it just like I would expect someone to throw it if they knew how to throw a knife and the knife was a throwable knife, neither of which are true. Miraculously enough, it hit the bear in the face almost directly on his nose, point first, and stuck him quite deeply on the muzzle. I mean popping deep. This is doubly miraculous since I was aiming rather vaguely at the other end of the bear. Throwing really hard is evidently terrible for one's aim. He blatted exactly like I imagine a sheep would sound, jumped in the air, swatted the knife out, and fled at top speed. He cleared a 4-foot chain link fence without slowing down and without touching it at all. Oh, and they caught the bear a couple of weeks later about 1/4 mile down the road when it clawed up some guy at a trash can. Identified by the wound on the nose. Almost healed. I'm a mod of our Florida man and I approve this message. I've lived in Tampa for 15 years and that stereotype is total fiction that the deep state wants you to believe to keep you in the dark. Now if you will excuse me, I have to go freebase some bath salts so I have the energy to wrestle the alligator out of my above ground pool. Tee up in the bed of my pickup truck filled with water. St. Petersburg here, though only one family member still lives there since my grandparents died. Aside from being a large, diverse state, another thing to consider is Florida's sunshine laws, which encompass broad public record laws that allow journalists to very quickly access police incident reports. I always get the feeling that on a slow news day, reporters from all over the world peruse Florida arrest records online and write stories about the craziest crap they can find, in hopes that it will go viral. If only people knew how different northern and southern Florida are. We should honestly be different states at this point. Northern Florida is basically just southern Georgia at this point. I think it's funny that living in Florida, most of the genuinely insane people I have met aren't even from here. They're all people who moved south from NYC. Every crazy person I've known has moved to Florida to straighten their life out. It never helps. It's accurate, but the only reason you see it is because arrests are published immediately. Other states have weirdos too. Those governments just don't go out of their way to publish the arrests. How dare you reveal to us a possible rational reason as to why the phenomenon of Florida man exists. Born and raised Floridian, I feel like it's appropriate and wrong at the same time. The biggest problem with it is most of the Florida men and women you hear about are originally from somewhere else. Same reason we're seen as being bad drivers. No one is actually from here. You throw a million different driving styles into one place, you're bound to have a bad time. From Miami, definitely bad drivers. Born in the UK to an American mother and pretty much my entire family, other than myself and my parents, live in Florida, so I spent a lot of time there growing up. Honestly, I get it. It's obviously not reflective of the entire population of FL, but dang does some freaky crap go down there. True Florida man here. The rare Florida native variety, born and raised in the state. I will tell you a couple of truths about Florida. North Florida is really South Georgia. The further away from the beach you get, the more southern Florida gets, with Orlando being the exception. As with the distance from the beach rule, so goes the same with the distance from I-4. Central FL, basically along the I-4 corridor, is about as normal as Florida gets. That spans from Daytona Beach on the east coast, through Orlando and down to Tampa on the west coast. As for the stereotype, most people will also tell you that the Florida man stories are readily available because of our sunshine laws. It's not that Florida man is any crazier than Texas man or Michigan man. Not sure those are great comparisons, by the way. It's just that the access to the police reports is readily available and easily reportable. We air our dirty laundry, we don't hide it. Michigan man may not be nuts, but Upper Michigan man, like Florida man but with snowmobiles and Viking blood gone goofy. I wish Florida had worse stereotypes, because the ones we do have are clearly not bad enough to keep everybody from moving into the state. I keep proposing baby eating, but they don't let me talk at city commission meetings anymore for some reason. On one hand, Florida man indisputably exists. You can't live in the state for any length of time without knowing at least one. If you don't think you know one, well, you probably are Florida man. On the other hand, I don't think he's unique to Florida. The reason he's so well known is Florida's very broad public records transparency laws, known collectively as the Sunshine Law. In a nutshell, with few exceptions, anything any state government agency does is required to be made public record. I embrace it. My personal favorite Florida man story is about Sheriff Grady Judd. He and his deputies shot a man 68 times, and when I asked why they shot him 68 times, the sheriff replied because they ran out of ammunition. The man in question was an armed and dangerous cop killer. We were this close to greatness, Star Wars man. Florida man born and raised. I grew up in Central Florida and now live in Miami. I will admit that my reaction to some of the memes are a big so what because I've seen similar things. My only real concerns are when A, it's a lie, can't think of any examples right now, or B, it's from a tourist or recent immigrant. Somebody fricks up on spring break, they're not Florida man. Some butthole loses his job and retires to FL. He does not automatically become Florida man when he does something crazy. You have to live in Florida for a while before you earn that title. I'll be honest, I used to enjoy Florida man memes. Now I feel they're used primarily to fuel Redditors' superiority complexes. That said, there's definitely crazy trashy folk in Florida, but if you keep to the right parts of town, spend a little more at Publix instead of going to Walmart, and use the new, well, illuminated racetrack instead of the dingy marathon when you're filling up your tank at night, you should be able to steer clear of the crazies for the most part. I've seen some wild crap living in Florida my whole life, so I'd say they are accurate in the sense that they happen. but there are just as many crazy stories as the rest of the country. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe I saw an article claiming that Florida has certain laws that allow stories to be published about crimes, crazy happenings immediately after they happen. Other states have rules about waiting a certain amount of time before talking about the wild crap that happens in their state. And while we're on the topic of Florida, please, if you are thinking of traveling down here because we have very loose COVID restrictions, don't. Please wait until COVID is over. Don't make our state government's denial of reality our problem. I have seen so many dang out of state plates lately parking and walking into Publix without a mask, etc. It's infuriating. I'd love to be able to not wear my mask at work, since I'm in and out of the cold all day, making my mask damp and sometimes smell of mushrooms, but I'd rather breathe in O2F, 2 parts oxygen, 1 part fungus, than get Rona. Not offended, not denying it. People are just their own breed. You have a bunch of retired successful New Yorkers, generally the no BS, Italian gangster types. They have kids and mix with the crazy AF will do anything if you dare them, Southerners, and create a wild new breed of overconfident and overtanned hybrids and then douse them Corona with lime, tequila and sea. Speaking from South Florida. I have lived in Orlando, Florida on and off for about 15 years, half my life. I went to college in Boston. That was a culture shock. I don't mind the stereotype, but I think people are missing why the stereotype exists. There are a couple of factors I can think of. First, Florida does not have a culture. Everybody and anyone moves here, so you get a lot of different styles of people around. Second, we have a crap ton of rehabs. This means that drug addicts come, relapse, and stay, cause it's easier to be homeless in this weather. Currently it is 75 out and I'm walking my dog in shorts. Third, we have open record laws. You do some weird crap and it ends up in the news. It's a weird place with weird people. I mainly live here for family, but it doesn't hurt that something in the water makes people stupid. My career is going far better here than it was in Boston. My friends up north are nowhere near to the level I am. I tell all my friends it's because it's never hard to be the smartest person in the room here. Basically, I'm a big fish in a little pond, but the rest of the pond's residents are very confused squirrels. Have family in Florida, so I go there a lot. Not a Floridian though. I was driving through the Panhandle and stopped at a grocery to get some road snacks and take a duddy. Well, there I am minding my own business, pants down and defenseless, when a 13-year-old child crawls under the walls of the store and exclaims, "I forgot to wipe my butt." I yell at him to shoo, but he just drops his pants and asks for some toilet paper. I hand it to him. He wipes his butt, tries to hand it to me. I refuse. Then he throws it on the floor. He then crawls back under the wall and leaves the bathroom. TLDR, met Florida boy. I have heard that no one is actually from Florida. Could it be that the crazies from the other 49 states end up in FL as some kind of self-fulfilling prophecy? The stereotype exists for a reason, but at the same, we are given no credit for our accomplishments. For instance, there was this one time my friend Billy Joe Bib Bob, who is also my third cousin grandpa, went fishing in a canoe and caught a bass that was bigger than the canoe. So he put the canoe on top of the bass and rowed the bass back to his treehouse, where he lives with our girlfriend. This funny take on that name came to me years ago and I can't unthink it now. Whenever I hear Billy Joe Bob, I think of the alternative, Billy Blowjob. I think it's funny when it's just a meme, but when it crosses into real life issues like the people during the election saying we should cut Florida off because who cares about the people who live there? Or those gifs of Bugs Bunny cutting the state off because frick everyone there, right? I don't like those and find them to be in bad taste. At least recognize that Florida man comes from our sunshine journalism law or whatever. I think the election frustration from Florida comes from the fact that we think of it as a swing state. You don't get the same memes about Alabama because everyone knew they would vote Trump all along. Also, it would be harder for Bugs Bunny to soar Alabama off. In all seriousness though, if the Panhandle were part of Alabama instead of Florida, Florida would be a fairly reliably blue state. I lived in Orlando for a year. I'm from St. Louis, which is the murder capital of the US. I never once saw a headline in St. Louis about 3 men robbing a Chuck E. Cheese with AK-47s. I honestly think it's all based on confirmation bias. The reason why Florida man exists is because all arrests in Florida becomes public record within a day. There are probably equally crazy people in other states. It's just that news outlets can't turn to them for content on a slow day like they can with Floridian people. The stereotype is probably further strengthened from the news stories that made it to national news like the Miami zombie. It's funny until someone finds out you're born there and assumes you're stupid or reckless. And their whole demeanor just kind of drops and they say oh solemnly or go quiet. I'm an introverted, teeter-tailing bookworm who drives carefully. The stereotype makes for easy clickbait. I do think the heat can be harder on mental health than people give it credit for. We love and celebrate it. Nearly every radio station has a segment on the latest Florida man headlines. Every newspaper covers them. It's a regular topic of conversation because it's just so dang entertaining. I wouldn't want to live in a state without Florida man. 20 or so years ago, when I'd go to other states, being from Florida seemed to make people think that I was a soft, laid-back, flip-flop wearing tourist. Now it tends to make people think I'm at least familiar with, if not fluent in, crazy. I thank the internet for that. But overall I'd say the Florida man swag peaked a few years ago, and states like West Virginia and Louisiana are emerging as contenders for the title. We've got more heat and humidity and press exposure, but they've got slightly more stubborn brands of wrong and proud in the other states. It's an okay place to be a nobody, though. As someone from Florida, Florida man memes are lit. Our neighbors have coconut trees, and they climb them every week or so to fling coconuts into the river swampy thing, IDK, where they sprout a bit later. Then we sell them as little coconut trees. Tourists love it. We have 2 gutters in our backyard, Toot and B. They are used interchangeably because we have no fricking idea which gator is which. They're big and shy oafs, even though Toot, or B, who knows, eats ducks. Sometimes, when you go on a walk in the neighborhood, you can see their heads sticking out. You can get grilled gator tail from the Everglades right next door. It tastes like chicken, but way better. Also, nobody ever fricking turns on their signal lights. Florida is very beautiful. Come pay us a visit. It's funny most of the time. It's a shame that other states do not have the open records laws that Florida does because let's face it, Alabama, Arkansas, California, plenty of people doing stupid crap all day long everywhere. It's just not a Florida thing, it's an open records law thing. Oh, I love it. I've embraced Florida man as part of my identity. Whenever I go somewhere new, if I don't feel like giving someone my name, I introduce myself as Florida man. I've not been on the news or famous on Reddit for doing something really weird and swamp themed involving alcohol or drugs, but seeing as I'm not yet dead, the clock is still running. I live in Orlando. As I was waiting outside a store to be helped, a homeless man limps up to me and asks, "Do you want to see something disgusting?" To which I responded, "Heck yeah man, but I'm sorry, I don't have any cash." He brushed that off with, "Just for that, I'll show you anyway." He then proceeded to sit on the curb and begin unwrapping a canvas bandage from around his ankle, the entire time yelping in pain with every layer. When he finally gets to the layer touching skin, the bandage had stuck to the wound, and so it took an extra bit of force to peel it off. He had scraped his ankle down to within a 1/8 inch of his bone, and had now unwrapped his wound on the curb in front of me. The stories are true, but also Florida is fantastic and beautiful. I moved to Florida from Canada for a couple months until COVID sent me home. On the second day I went to Target and saw a man, likely on M, fighting the air. Looked like a pretty close fight tbh. There are versions of Florida man in every state. Some have more, some have less. We're just the most upfront about it, and thus the moniker is named for us. Born and raised Floridian here. It's my favorite meme just because of how spot on it is. Everything from dudes tweaking out walking down the road, to throwing alligators through the drive-thru window at Wendy's, to naked dudes stealing cop cars and jerking off driving down the highway, all happened in near my hometown at least once. Pretty sure the gator drive-thru thing happened at least twice. It's incredibly entertaining to see the rest of the country so baffled and interested in our wild butt state. 10/10 from me. I'm from Florida and honestly it just makes me laugh. Mainly because if I told you stories of things I did during my childhood high school, you'd be like WTF, that's some Florida man crap. I honestly am proud to be from that lawless swamp. I live in TN now and love hearing people's impressions of Floridians. Apparently we are all bat crap crazy and I love it. I heard the toothbrush was invented in Tennessee. It must be true because if it was invented anywhere else it would be called a teeth brush. Generally the joke here is that the more north you go here, the more south it gets. Like I'm down here in Miami, so obviously basically none of the stereotypes really apply here. I still find them funny though, and in my online friend group I play into the stereotype every now and then for a joke. It doesn't faze me anymore. After I found out that Florida disclosure laws make it easier for information to go public than in other states, it made sense. Every place has its share of dumb people. You just hear about it more often when it involves Florida man. Born and raised Floridian. Work at Publix and customer service, so I see the best of the best. In Pasco County if anyone watches Live PD. Florida man stereotype? Absolutely true, I've seen some wild crap. Most Florida man thing I've seen was some dude coming in shirtless with a cat on his shoulder then starts screaming at other customers who are looking at him. Which we all were. This man had a little cat on his arm. When my manager walks up to handle the situation he pops TF off and starts threatening to hit her, calling her a freaking bee. You know, the works. My manager starts telling him, I dare you to hit me. See where that gets you. He didn't end up punching her colon. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.